This is a great speaker. Dare I say, one of the best you can get at 1500 and under. Today we'll discuss the speaker and its design, and then pair it up with 4 amplifiers, scaling from a simple cheap Class D up to a 500 watt monster. So let's see how this one does.
You stole my heart of gold after my silver soul. Can you dig any deeper now? I gave you all I own, put you on this golden throne.
This is the P300 from Buchardt. It's a speaker from their more affordable lineup, and if it looks familiar, it's because it's a spin-off of the highly regarded S400 MKII. They actually share the same enclosure, tweeter, waveguide, and passive radiator. What makes the P300 unique from the premium S400 MKII is that it uses a different woofer for one. It has a slightly smaller motor structure, and this is an interesting one because many reviewers have stated that the P300 actually gets a little bit deeper than the S400. But I'll have to take their word for it as I have not tested the big brother. On that same point, it's entirely possible that it does have a little more authority on the bottom end, but that's not always where the premium qualities are focused. It could be the tonality, response, scalability, things like that, so don't be short-sighted here and only look at the frequency response. Often there's more to it than that. So when I originally graduated high school, I wasn't positive on the direction I wanted to take. I was actually going to go into graphic design, but I waited too long and the courses were already full. So naturally I went into computer networking. But you know what? That all worked out. Since then, I've worked in IT for over 15 years in various roles, currently managing application developers. I was able to obtain my current role after going back to school to specialize in IT management. Sometimes all you need to do is lay the groundwork by furthering your education so you become one of the top candidates rather than the one that keeps getting looked over. If you're interested in starting a career in computer science or software engineering, then I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Southern New Hampshire University. SNHU has one of the largest accredited, nonprofit, online degree offerings in the country. I want to talk to you specifically about their computer science degree. In this program, you'll gain the skills you need to enter one of the nation's fastest growing fields. You'll learn popular languages such as Python, Java, and C++. Further expand your toolbox with experience in full-stack development and cloud integration using JavaScript, non-SQL, and Amazon Web Services. You'll also learn agile software methodologies and develop a security mindset that'll help you understand some of the biggest challenges in the current industry. SNHU also provides cloud-based virtual environments in some courses to give you access to the technology you need for your degree and your career. SNHU is radically affordable. Their online tuition rates are some of the lowest in the nation. Go to https://snhu.edu/Kuykendall, also linked in my description below, to see what their current average annual salary for a developer is and request free information about the program. In the future, there's going to be 2 categories of jobs: people who tell computers what to do and people who are told by computers what to do. Which one will you be? The other obvious change from the S400 is simply the binding posts. They're still fine, I have no qualms about them at all. If anything, they are the quality I would expect at this price range. And if you're going to cut anywhere to bring the price down, this is probably one of the first areas you're going to look at. Finally, the big change you can't see, and that's the crossover. The crossover design on the P300 is much simpler than what is offered in the S400. It doesn't carry all the premium parts. The S400 goes way over the top in this area though. So yes, the crossover isn't the prize fighter anymore, but it doesn't appear to be an afterthought in any way, and the performance of the speakers really speak for themselves here. These come in at roughly $1,500, no tax, import fee, or shipping. Buchardt covers all of that. These are only sold direct by Buchardt. I honestly think if these were sold in stores, we would probably be looking at something in the $2,500 range here. Thankfully, we're getting more direct-to-consumer options that don't require the same overhead that some of the mainstream companies depend on. Things like massive marketing campaigns, dealer networks, and of course, leaving a little bit of profit in there for the distributors. It's pretty obvious why we're seeing so many price hikes as of late. Just too many hands in the cookie jar, really. Looking at the exterior of these, I feel like they have a bit of a mid-century vibe. Really a clean aesthetic, nothing too intrusive that you would really want to hide in your space. The color options are great. Mine is Ocean, which is this really nice matte deep blue. But they also come in peach and olive if the flavor you're looking for is a little bit different. And don't worry, yes, you can still get these in just black or white if you want to keep things simple. No gloss options here, which really doesn't bother me. I already have enough piano black gear collecting every one of my kids' fingerprints as is. I do not have the matching stands, much to my dismay, because I really like them. To me, it's a perfect pairing as far as design. The spindled legs are clean and simple, offering a few different finish types as well. I myself would have picked the dark oak. That'd be a great combo with the ocean blue speaker finish. A closer look at the drivers brings us to the woofer. It's a 6-inch paper cone woofer that reaches down to 37 Hz, and I really don't doubt it. The first time I fired these up in my office, I thought I had the sub connected. In a small space like that, they really bring a lot of authority. The tweeter is there. It might appear small, and well, that's because it is. Buchardt states it was actually designed in this way for a couple of reasons. Large tweeters excel at things like power handling and frequency bandwidth, allowing them to be crossed over at a lower frequency, but in turn this does bring some limitations in off-axis listening and uneven frequency response. The small tweeter combined with the deep waveguide helps to bring the crossover point down, but doesn't really bring you any limitations in the off-axis performance. Turn this one around and you find a passive radiator, instead of the general port found in what I would say is most loudspeakers. The reason they may have chose this design option is that a port would have increased the cabinet size by a sizable amount if they were to tune it this deep. This way you keep the somewhat compact nature of the P300 and avoid things like potential port sounds as well. Now let's talk about the sound. First off, I placed this speaker on the slightly darker side of neutral. It falls into what I call the easy listening window. No screeching highs that give you pause and really turning up a recording. They just seem to be something that really work with a lot of genres of music. If we want to break this down, the highs coming from the tweeter do best in my room with the toe in pointing just outside of my shoulder width. That gave me a really great soundstage, really big. Vocals were dialed in as well, coming in dead center in my seating position. The mid-range is full. It carries a confidence that scales as the volume increases. I think the paper cone woofer has some influence here. Definitely a warmness that really benefits a lot of vocalists. The bass is definitely present. It's a full sound, a surprisingly large amount of bass for the cabinet size. On this point, it gives you in some ways a lot of options. Closer to the wall, you'll get more bass presence, although this may overpower a small room, so you can simply dial that in by bringing them out further into your room. You can really find that sweet spot for your taste. In a small room, this is definitely a sub-optional speaker. No, they won't reach 20 Hz, but there really isn't a lot of music that requires it. If you feel the need, or if you have a larger space, I found the P300 to integrate really easily with a pair of Sumiko S9 subs. There is no denying that a properly integrated sub can add an additional layer into your listening. Whether you enjoy that is completely up to you. Now let's get into those amp pairings. See how this one scales. The P300 is not the easiest speaker to drive. At 86 dB efficiency and 4 ohms, you will likely need a bit of power to get the most out of these. I want to start at the very bottom of the totem pole first. It's very unlikely you would make this amp purchase and this speaker purchase, but maybe you're the guy that has $10,000 wheels on a $2,000 car. I'm not judging. First up to bat is the new Fozzy Audio BT20A Pro. It's a small class D amp utilizing the TPA 3255 amp chip. At 4 ohms and this power supply, expect around 65 to 70 watts of sub $100 power. So it actually does all right here. I honestly didn't expect it to fall on its face though. These little bricks can surprise some people. In my office, the speakers can be driven plenty loud with this amp, but it does introduce a bit of what I would call maybe a tinny sound, and in some ways starts to falter as the volume starts to creep into the loud category. It's honestly doing pretty good for the price, but as I move up the ladder here, I think I may notice a trend as far as pure enjoyability. And as far as room size, this amp and speaker pairing would be limited to a smaller space. I wouldn't expect great results in a large room. Am I being a bit critical of this amp here? Well, yeah, I am, and that's just because I honestly don't believe this is a realistic pairing. I actually really enjoy amps like this, Fozzy, but I match them up with the appropriate gear and have realistic expectations of the results. Next up, the Yamaha A-S501. This one is a Class AB amp that has a power output of, well, unknown at 4 ohms actually. 85 at 8, 100 at 6, so let's just assume this falls somewhere around 100 to 110 watts per channel at 4 ohms. This is definitely a step up in build quality and features, but does that bring a better sound on the P300s? Yeah, It actually does in this case, but that's not uncommon for a speaker at this level to scale very easily as you increase the quality of amplification. The tinny sound is gone, and the level of punch and technical detail is increased. I wouldn't say the bass as a whole is any louder, but that is what I believe to be a byproduct of the Yamaha amp. These tend to be a little more laid back and require a bit of tuning with their loudness controls. Low-level listening is improved. You no longer need to bring up the volume to really get a cohesive blend between the frequency ranges. My headroom has grown as well. Now we enter realistic expectations in a larger space. I would say you're going to be fine operating at this power level in a larger room. Now we're starting to get into more of the premium products. I want to see if these scale in a linear fashion or if we're just starting to look for 2% gains here and there. Basically, I want to know the sweet spot for speakers like this. No need to spend beyond what will benefit their capabilities. This is the Audiolab 9000A. It's another Class AB design that is quite the price jump over the Yamaha and the Fozzy. It puts out 160 watts per channel into 4 ohms and should easily push this speaker. I'm not going to get into the details of this amp right now as I have a future review coming, but all in all, this is a fantastic integrated that takes things a step further than their other highly regarded model, the 6000A. The P300 sounded excellent on this integrated. There's a supreme balance of realism and fun. The sound is rich and detailed. The speakers seem to really appreciate a little more power. Everything has the proportion and scale it should, with effortless grace. This is the first time I feel like I've really heard these speakers open up and perform to their top level. Before it was like these speakers did things, but on an individual level, like, oh yeah, that particular is really nice. But now it's more of a comprehensive involvement. The pieces are coming together here. Finally, we have a real brute of an amp, the Orchard Audio Starkrimson 2.0. I have a review coming for this one as well, but to give you the basics, this is the new 2.0. It features an upgraded power supply, a replacement for the Hypex offering, less noise, as well as the ability to support 30% more capacitance, which in my case, this amp is fully maxed out. I'll link this one below if you guys want to check it out. Oh, and by the way, it also has 500 watts per channel into 4 ohms, so we're going to go way beyond requirements here and just look to max these out. I honestly don't think there's going to be a need to go beyond this, and we're getting to the point where we're bordering on going overboard for this particular speaker. Since we need to remember this is a standalone amp, a DAC and preamp is needed at minimum, and you won't want to skimp there either. This is likely a better fit for the S400 MKII that will in all likelihood continue to scale up the ladder with some of the premium components it houses. All that aside though, this amp is great. The clarity and detail coming through the P300 is really top notch. The bass is defined with pinpoint accuracy. There is no blur here, and I wonder if that's coming from the GaN transistors, which operate at speeds 2 to 3 times faster than silicone transistors. Either way, this amp paired very well with the P300 warm sound. It brought out a high level of detail and transparency, with next to nothing in terms of harshness. All in all, do you need this much power for the P300s? No, you don't, but it will take it and it will appreciate it. So yeah, the Audiolab 9000A and the Starkrimson Ultra 2.0 did bring in a new level of wow and enjoyment over some of the budget options. You can certainly enjoy these cheaper models though. They actually did really well, but I just want to highlight these speakers are actually a great fit for people in several different price ranges. Don't feel like you're locked into a particular gear. All of this really makes me wonder about that S400 MKII. If the P300 was able to scale as well as it did, the S400 MKII would really be an interesting listen. Buchardt actually has their own integrated amp that you could look into, and it's certainly no slouch either. It's based around the Hypex Encore module, outputting 150 watts into 8 and 300 into 4. It has room correction, an EQ, sub-integration, and more. Plus they give you a discount if you buy it with one of their speaker pairs. I haven't had the chance to demo that one, but it's definitely an interesting option as well. In conclusion, if you're looking for speakers that offer great musicality, look great, and cost less than a car, you really have to consider the P300. Especially the people who have been keeping tabs on the S400 MKII, this might be the compromise you're looking for. We have the same enclosure as the S400, the same tweeter and waveguide, along with the passive radiator. It really only differs in the woofer, the binding post, and the crossover, which I have no doubt makes a difference, but I can honestly tell you this is a great buy if value and sound quality is important to you. I would like to thank Mads for sending these out for review. Seems to be a great company to deal with, no hassle, quick responses, and they back their products with a 5-year warranty. Go check them out. They have several offerings. Take care. I'll talk to you later.